they blended these worlds during her Super Soul conversation right here in New York. And despite big-name stars like Bradley Cooper and Michael B. Jordan, it's her conversation with rising political star Beto O'Rourke that's generating all this buzz.
Thank you.
This morning, Oprah Winfrey doing what she does best, getting people to open up. From politics.
There was something that was new and maybe even dangerous or different about the way that we ran this campaign.
To passion projects.
So her best advice to me about singing was just try not to sing.
The media mogul first sitting down with former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke Tuesday night for her Super Soul Conversations from Times Square event.
We don't need walls.
Asking the Democratic star about his political ambitions amid speculation he might run for president in 2020.
If I can play some role in helping the country to do that,
okay,
by God, I'm going to do it.
Okay, by God, when are you going to know the answer?
Yeah.
When are you going to know that? Have you given yourself a deadline? I'm serious about that. Have you given yourself a...
And the serious answer is really soon. Is really soon, before the end of this month. Someone's asking for right now, but...
You all are the answer.
O'Rourke made national headlines when he nearly unseated Republican Senator Ted Cruz in a contentious 2018 midterm race in deep red Texas. His record-breaking fundraising and grassroots support leading some to call him the new Obama.
We're fired up.
It was, of course, with the old Obama that Oprah first wielded her own political power, endorsing the former president during his 2008 campaign. Since then, Oprah has repeatedly shut down any speculation that she would run for office in 2020. O'Rourke turning the tables on Tuesday.
I'm sure many people here would like to know the answer from you.
Yeah.
Is this something you have considered doing? Would you consider serving?
The reason I respect your process is because I do firmly believe it's something you've got to feel inside of yourself.
Absolutely.
And you've got to come to a knowing inside yourself.
From political campaigns to Oscar campaigns, Oprah talking to Bradley Cooper about his Best Director snub.
And the first thing I felt was embarrassment, actually.
Oh.
Well, think about it. I felt embarrassed that I didn't do my part. So I'll work on that. It'll be,
Yeah.
but that was the first.
Well, I'm glad you.
But that makes sense. Think about it. I mean.
But my thing is, I'm at least glad you said that, because if I were you, I would be feeling some kind of way about it.
Yeah, embarrassment. I went. Oh gosh, I didn't do my job.
But you know you did.
I do.
And actor Michael B. Jordan about the push to include more diversity in front of the cameras and behind the scenes.
You're constantly reminding people of the pool of talent that are underrepresented, like women, people of color, people from the LGBT.
Which means you got to work harder every time.
1,000%.
You know what's interesting is that you saw Bradley Cooper talk about feeling ashamed.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched these Super Soul Sundays, she gets these stars and these public figures to speak in a way that's unusually authentic and vulnerable and unscripted. And then she puts these on her podcast, and this particular one is going to air on February 16th on her own network.
They really open up. Going back to Beto O'Rourke, though, here's a guy, I mean, he lost the race in Texas.
Okay, now, Craig.
But he lost, but did he say anything last night about, what he might have learned from that experience that would help him if he decides to run for president?
He did, and he did lose, but what was interesting is that he talked about how that same authenticity we were just describing really helped him, because that's something that we confirmed when we were on the trail following these politicians during the midterms. Almost everyone we spoke to on both sides of the aisle said, look, we want a candidate who is outside of the establishment political paradigm. We want someone new, we want someone fresh, and we want someone who's going to shake things up, different from politics as usual.